Well, hello again and welcome to SPURGOS Thought for Your Day. I'm Pastor John from Sun City Church. It's great to have you with us this morning. And we're going to continue on with our journey through the book of Psalms, and we're looking at Psalms chapter 4 today. And my thought for you is, don't let road rage drive your car. In Psalm 4, David records a time when he's feeling the need to defend himself against the accusations of others. In verse 2, he writes these words, "How long will you people ruin my reputation? How long will you make groundless accusations? How long will you continue your lies?" Now, it's only natural for most of us to feel the need to defend ourselves when we believe that a false accusation or an injustice has been committed against us. And I wonder if we just contemplate how many conflicts arise, how many friendships have been lost and broken, how many families have been ripped apart because of a few careless words or some inconsiderate statements, maybe a simple misunderstanding or an issue of trust that has been broken. And people end up going through that endless cycle of he said, she said, they said, but I said, but she said, but he said, that I said, that they said. And it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. Well, when we take our very human ability to offend and be offended, and we mix it with all the social media outlets that we have today and the financial pressures and pressures on the job and paying the mortgage and relationship issues going on in marriages and homes and other relationships and just the general stresses of life, when you mix that all together, it's no wonder that we can all be a little bit susceptible to a bout of road rage at times. Now, that may manifest itself literally in physical road rage, where we hear those incidences, and maybe you've experienced it yourself, where you're driving your car, someone cuts you off, and just a little small spark can lead to terrible consequences and irrational actions. I remember one time driving my children on the school run when I lived in a large city, and people would get frustrated sitting in traffic, and a couple of cars in front of me, a man jumped out of his car at a stop sign, went over to the other driver, punched him a few times through the window that was open, and got back into his car. And it's like some kind of weird random event, because of all the things that people are going through, and that one final incident was too much for them, and they just saw red and went into an act of road rage. But also there's road rage figuratively speaking. It's not always in our car, but there are times in our lives when something just sparks us off, or a careless word, or something that takes place, and it can be a conflict in the home with those that we care about and love the most. It can be in the workplace with our colleagues. It can be a situation even in church where different parties and feel aggrieved by somebody else. And let's not kid ourselves. No matter how hard we may try, offences will come in life. People will say hurtful things. We will all disappoint somebody at some point in time, because none of us are perfect. And that leads us to David's thought here in our text in Psalms 4, because he feels that the offence and the hurt, and he feels that sense of instinctive reaction to respond with anger and self-justification. But what's interesting, although he feels it, that is not the way he responds. In Psalms 4 and verse 4 to 5, he writes, "Don't sin by letting anger control you. Think about it overnight and remain silent. Offer sacrifices in the right spirit and trust the Lord." Now here is some wise advice from David. Don't let anger control your actions. In other words, when you're doing a bit of road rage, you're not the one who's driving the car, your anger is, and as a result, someone else is going to be hurt, and also probably you. David's advice is to think first before you respond to something, to keep a right spirit in your actions, and to give your hurt and your anger to the Lord. In James 1 and verse 19, James says, "Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters, you must all be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Once you press send on that email or that text message, it can never be taken back. Words can inflict wounds that scar people their whole lives. In Ephesians 4 and verse 26 to 29, Paul writes and says, "And don't sin by letting anger control you. Don't let the sun go down while you are still angry, for anger gives a foothold to the devil." So when we hit back in anger, when we respond instinctively without thinking to something, the results are usually destructive. David could not stop or change what others said and did, and neither can you or I. We can't control what other people may do, but we can certainly control ourselves. And with the Lord's help, we can do this. We can also choose to offer sacrifices in the right spirit. The sacrifices of patience and kindness and self-control. All of these things can be developed with practice. However, more than that, David understood that the Lord was there to help us. We are not alone in this, for the Lord wants to enable us. The Holy Spirit in you will produce what you need naturally. It's part of the fruit of the Holy Spirit. If we're willing to sacrifice the hurt, the anger, the outrage, the injustice, we're willing to give it to the Lord and let the Lord deal with those things that we're experiencing. In Galatians 5:22, the fruits, as we know, of the Holy Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. And when I consider Christ on the cross saying, "Father, forgive," I see in his self-control my own salvation and hope. No one suffered such an injustice as Jesus. No one had more right to be aggrieved than Jesus, yet he chose forgiveness. Proverbs 16 verse 24, it says that kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. So today let us think before we speak and before we act. Pause before you press the send button and offer as a sacrifice our pride, our hurt, our anger. Let's just surrender them into the hands that were scarred for us, the hands of Jesus. Because he is the one who judges all. And let us ask the Holy Spirit for his strength and his wisdom to know how we should respond, how we should speak, to consider before we act in every issue that we face every day. That's my thought for your day. Thank you for joining with me this morning. I pray that you'll have a blessed day.